What's up, guys? Max here with the Landfather YouTube channel, and today I'm going to do a review of this Kioti DK5310. It's been something I've been meaning to do for a little while now, and seems like the next thing up. So let's take a look at it. So like I mentioned, this is a Kioti DK5310SE HST. So this is a 50 horsepower hydrostatic tractor. I live on 20 acres in upstate South Carolina. And I purchased this tractor about a week after I moved into my new property because I knew I was going to need a tractor, and frankly, I wanted one. And so one of the things that drew me to Kioti in general is the fact that these tractors offer a huge amount of value for the price. So this tractor was with the factory installed, or the dealer installed third function and filled rear tires, was right at $30,000 out the door. And if this tractor had been green, it'd have been $13,000 or $14,000 more than that. And that's a significant difference. I just couldn't really justify that increase in price. Additionally, the Kioti dealer Steck equipment that I bought this tractor from is the closest dealership to my house, which is a really important factor for when you buy a tractor, is dealer support. And I knew that being close is always better than being far. I'm going to run through some of the features that I really like about this tractor and tell you some of the thoughts I have from using it. One of my favorite parts about this tractor is the lift capacity. It's significantly higher than a lot of tractors this size. I believe it's somewhere in the order of 2,600 pounds. Which is rated at the pins, but I haven't really hooked this thing into anything it won't really lift. And granted, I'm trying not to abuse my equipment, but it does a really, really good job of moving full totes, IBC totes of firewood, and it's got just a lot of lift capacity, which is one of the things I wanted. This is also a great opportunity that I'd like to take to go ahead and ask you to subscribe if you like this content. There's plenty more coming. I feel like my production value has gotten a lot better, and I'm really enjoying this. If you could, just go ahead and subscribe, throw a like or a comment if you could. It really does help get the videos out in front of more people when you've got better metrics. So I'm still figuring out how the algorithm works, but I can tell that it really does prefer when you have subscribers. So I get a lot of folks watching some of my content. A lot of it's for the first time, so I understand, you don't know me, you don't owe me anything. You may not feel like subscribing yet, but if any of this is enjoyable to you, I would appreciate it. And I'm having a lot of fun interacting with some of the people on my channel, and just give it a shot. I typically ask for this at the end, but I feel like not a lot of people end up watching all the way through a video. I've certainly been guilty of that in the past, so I'm going to put this a little closer to the beginning. And I guess this is begging at a certain point. I'm definitely asking for a favor, but it doesn't cost you anything, and I think you'll get some value out of it if you like this sort of stuff. Another thing this tractor has a lot of is power. So it's a 50 horsepower tractor, which is actually the biggest tractor I've ever operated. I started tractoring on a Massey Ferguson 1440V, which is a 40 horsepower gear driven tractor that my family has up on our property in West Virginia. If you saw some of the West Virginia videos I did, that's the tractor it's the first one I ever drove. When I bought this house, it came with a John Deere 1025R that the previous owner used to maintain this property. And I was able to get a good deal on that tractor, so I felt like might as well go ahead and buy it. And I really just had the intention of either trading it in to buy this or selling it and using that money for something else. After I started using that little thing, I liked it. It was a good tractor. I do feel like it's undersized for 20 acres. And I have a video out there that's a long form video about my thoughts on the 1025R for somebody on a 20-acre homestead. It leaves a little bit to be desired from a power and lift capacity and weight standpoint, but it was a well-made machine, and I enjoyed owning it. I ended up trading it in for my John Deere 333G, which I've documented on the channel a little bit. Huge upgrade there, going from a small compact tractor to the largest skid loader that John Deere currently makes until May of 2024, when they're going to come out with the 335P, which is quite a machine, 118 horsepower and significantly more hydraulic flow, and that's quite a machine. So power. The difference between a 25 horsepower tractor like the 1025R and this Kioti with 50 horsepower is significant. This thing weighs almost 3 times, maybe even a little over 3 times what that 1025R weighed. And it's just a much more capable machine. And I, like many of you, don't have a huge amount of time. So when I am doing projects, I like them to be done a little bit quicker, and a little bit more power, a little bit more capacity helps to get things done fast. So here's a shot as you kind of walk up and access the machine. I don't think you see the flex in that step bar. That step bar feels a little cheap. It'd be nice if it felt a little stronger, but it's certainly still there and certainly works. This is the fuel fill on it, which I really like this location. You don't have to pick jerry cans up high, and it's easy to fill it from here. I did have some concerns when I purchased it that this seems to be kind of in the danger zone, so to speak. But I haven't had any issues with it. I haven't had any strikes with it. It seems like a really good idea to have your fuel fill right there. And so coming up into the operator station, there's a little shout out to Steck. If you're in the upstate and you want a Kioti, I'd give them a look. So coming up here, you've got low, medium, and high for your forward speeds and reverse speeds. Then you've got a draft control height over here. Four-wheel drive is down there, and your lowering speed is over there as well. And this is also a differential lock. So very comfortable operating station, very comfortable seat. You've got your light controls down here, your parking brake, which is engaged with this pedal, and then you just pull it down like that. You've got your throttle control over here, and then this is your loader control, and this is my third function switch. So I do have a grapple for the front of this machine, which is such a nice thing to have. If you've never had a grapple, I'd highly recommend getting a grapple for your tractor. As far as like a force multiplier or something that can really save you a lot of hand effort work time, the grapples are amazing attachments for these machines, because you can pick so much stuff up and pile it up really well and move logs and all sorts of stuff. I would say a grapple is really high on my list of attachments that if you have a compact tractor with a third function capability and a skid steer quick attach, that would probably be the number 2 thing I get. And I'm going to talk about implements a little bit in this video, but I'm also going to do a dedicated video here pretty soon about some of the implements that I've been running on this machine. I'll highlight them here, but just really briefly, and what I would consider kind of the most important, what I would buy in order. It's not necessarily the order I bought them in, but looking back after all of the tractoring I've done with this thing, managing my homestead, I'm going to put a video out there about, like, if you're just getting started, this is what I would recommend you start with first. And granted, that's going to be very specific to my application and how I use my machines, but I do think there'll be some useful nuggets in there for people that maybe just bought a tractor, just bought a place out in the country, and are thinking, what do I need first? So look for that in the next couple of weeks. You've also got hazards down here, right there. And then down here, so this tractor does have a regen system, which I've gone through a couple regens. They're really nothing special or anything to think about. The only way you'll probably notice is there's a little icon that lights up on the dash and it starts to smell a little different. This is your cruise PTO, which keeps your PTO speed at a set RPM. So you can engage that when you're bush hogging or doing something that uses the PTO. And this is your controls for that cruise PTO. So it's a pretty simple operator station. I've really enjoyed it, and let's take a look at kind of what the seat looks like. So the seat is super comfortable. It is air ride and it is adjustable. I've got 110 hours on this machine just about, and the bulk of those hours have been sitting in that seat, and it is a good place to be. I do think that I probably want to add some sort of canopy. I was born with that gingivitis, and sun exposure is tougher for me than some other people. So some way to get some shade on here would be really nice. But that'll come probably next summer or so. So these are the linkages that came on its stock. You've got 2 turnbuckles on either side, and then an adjustable right arm, right link, and then, you know, pretty standard top link. One of the things that's really nice about this tractor that I've never had a tractor with before is you have a draft height control back here. So when you're hooking up an implement, you don't have to get up into the operator station to change the height of the control arms. You know, if the tractor's not on, so it'll lower, but it won't raise. And then you've got a PTO shaft down here and a drawbar, which I actually don't keep on here. I keep in my shop because I don't really use it too much, and I find it kind of can get in the way a bit. It does come standard with 2 rear remotes, which I will probably utilize with a hydraulic top link here shortly. It seems really convenient. And I'm also kind of thinking for Christmas, a quick hitch back here would look pretty sweet. So it's got a little toolbox right here, which isn't very big, but a good place to keep a set of pliers and a wrench and some pins and some things. And then, you know, your rollover protection system, which does fold down, which is nice because in the past I've kept it under here, and it's about 1 inch too tall. And ask me how I know that. I certainly haven't run into my house with my tractor, and I'm sure none of you people have. But it is nice for it to fold down for storage. But I do pretty much leave it up because I keep it in the shop most of the time, and it's got plenty of height in there. So this is the bucket that came standard on it. It's a fine bucket. It's maybe not the world's best bucket, but it is built pretty well. You know, you've got a nice, strong, boxed-in top edge. The cutting edge works pretty good. I will say, somewhat embarrassingly, I did bend this bucket a little bit when I had some of those clamp-on pallet forks. I used to have a set of clamp-on pallet forks that I bought to put on the front of that Massey Ferguson I used to use, and those things kind of suck a lot. I don't know if any of you have ever had to use them. They're just difficult to use, and they don't feel very strong, and they're kind of sketchy, and they're a huge moment arm on the buckets, and I ended up bending mine by trying to move some brush around. And I'm glad I don't have to use those anymore. I gave them to a friend of mine who still uses them, and I hope he's enjoying them. Shout out Josh. They're just not the best solution. A pallet fork frame is honestly, I'll get to that later, but I kind of wish they came with pallet fork frame standard instead of a bucket, because I use the pallet fork frame so much more. One of the other things that I'm going to say needs to be pretty much standard on any subcompact utility tractor you buy for a homestead type property or small farming operation is a skid steer quick attach. So you lift these handles up, which pull out these little pins down here, and you can drop a bucket and put something else on really, really quickly, and it works super well. And it's compatible with a huge amount of attachments. That's one of the reasons they exist, is the interchangeability. I found it's really nice that it's even compatible with my skid steer implements. You know, sometimes I've even hooked up the my skid steer bucket to the front of this for when I was cleaning out my chicken coop, which is over there, and just wanted a bigger scoop, and it wasn't going to be very heavy, just, you know, chicken litter and some wood chip. And just being able to hook up to those attachments and have some interchangeability between my 2 machines is just super nice. I really can't recommend enough having a skid steer quick attach or some type of quick attach. I think the John Deere one, which my old tractor had, that 1025R, had the John Deere hook and pin. It's better than nothing. It's better than a pinned on bucket, but you're so limited to that ecosystem that it just doesn't really seem like a good idea. And I actually wish John Deere would get rid of it, but that's just one man's opinion. So here is the third function that I had the dealership install. They're Pioneer fittings, and it's been a great thing. I've only used it with the grapple, but like I said earlier, the grapples are just one of my favorite things to use, and a really intoxicating feeling of power. So I'd highly recommend getting a third function installed when you buy a machine. It's easier than taking another trip back, and typically cheaper as well. So all the grease zerks are easy to get to, and you've got 4 down there, 1 right there, 1 right there, 1 right there, 1 right there. There's a grease fitting on top of this front axle and a few others around the machine. They're easy to get to, they're easy to use, and I heard something the other day that running a grease gun is one of the highest dollar per hour jobs you'll ever have, and I do try and keep this machine pretty well maintained. So here's a look under the hood. You got your battery down here, air filters right there, some radiators, and one of the things I've noticed with this machine, it does a good job of not getting too clogged up with like grass seeds and stuff when you're bush hogging in tall grass. The Massey Ferguson I used to use was really bad about that, and I'll be honest, I'm not the world's most mechanically inclined person, so I don't know how everything in here works, but I also, after 100 hours, haven't really had to lift the hood too much, so that's really good. I'll get a shot from over here. So there's your exhaust pipe coming through here, and that up there is your DPF filter, which is why it has to regen. There's another shot of it. There's also a tiny little turbocharger on there, which is kind of cool. And one of the other things I really like, so your starter solenoid right here is super easy to get to, which is really good for me because I have a Beaver 116 gallon diesel tank that I'll include a shot of right here. It's electric, so it's supposed to hook to the battery, but without having to lift the hood, you can hook it to the starter solenoid and it does just fine. So there's a shot of some of the internals and the mechanical side of things. So let's fire this thing up. You know, one of the other things I like, it's a metal hood. There's not a lot of plastic on this machine, which I really like. Like you can tell, it fires right up. It's pretty quiet, at idle at least. Here, I'll go ahead and throttle it up so you can hear what it sounds like wide open throttle. And if you look close, there's 110 hours on the dot. Realistically, if I hadn't had another tractor and a skid steer for pretty much the whole time I've owned this machine, I'd probably have a lot more, like almost 200 hours on it. But, you know, 100 hours in a year, I wish I could get more seat time on it, but I'm also happy with that amount. And it certainly has helped me maintain my property a whole heck of a lot more than that 1025R has, or, well, a whole heck of a lot faster, so I can get more done. One of the other things that like I feel like is worth mentioning on this machine is just, I think it looks really cool. You know, that's not a really like a factor for some people, and it's not like I would buy a tractor because one looked cooler than the other, but I like the color. I'm a Clemson fan, so orange is important to me. And I think the grill looks good. I think it's got a stance that's like kind of mean and like, let's get some work done. I just really like it. Now, I haven't named this machine, and I was thinking about that the other day, and that I really do like naming things. So I'd love to hear some suggestions in the comments about what I should name this machine. I don't really even have too many ideas. So if you guys have a good suggestion, I'm all ears. You know, I've never done any of my own wrenching on this machine. I did take it in for the 100-hour service, which really should have been the 50-hour service. And yes, I know paying attention to service intervals is important, but I did feel that 50 hours was a bit overkill for the first service. So I took it in right at 100. I was also busy using it. You know, it's tough to be without a machine for a few days. And I think that 100-hour service was like $486. And I don't really know how that compares to other dealers, but it seemed reasonable enough to me. Saved me a bunch of time, and you know, the parts and everything are a significant portion of that. So it seemed reasonable. Let me know if you think that that's really high, but you know, there's a price to owning these machines, and there's also a huge price to not taking care of them. Some of the nifty little features I like is there's a really good tie down point on the front axle for chaining it down to the to the trailer. There's also on the inside back here, good place to keep a pin, one of those little snap ring pins. I typically don't. I typically keep them in that toolbox, but I have used that, and it's a great little feature. These are two of the implements I've run on it. This is a Woodland Mills, I think it's WC or WG 24 stump grinder. This thing is awesome. I've ground a lot of stumps with it. I'm really impressed. This is a Nova tractor wood chipper that runs off the PTO. And I bought this used. I got a really good deal for it. I think I paid $800 for it, and it only been run a few hours. It's not perfect, but I have ground a lot of wood chips with it. I don't use these quite as much, so I keep them under the overhang next to this trailer, just so they stay out of the weather, because they're more complicated than most of the other implements. Got a Dirt Dog 84-inch landscape rake, which I've been really impressed with. I haven't used it a ton, but everything I've used it for, it's done a really good job. Mostly top dressing the driveway. So I've got a 16-disc harrow for it, which is what I use to plant my food plots. This is a really, it's a nice harrow. I've really enjoyed it. I got a really good deal on it. Only paid $400 for it, and it's in remarkably good shape. I will say my Kioti pulls that a lot better than the old Massey Ferguson I used to use. That extra 10 horsepower makes a big difference. This is a 60-inch clamshell grapple. That is what I use for the front of my Kioti. It's awesome. I love it. It's not super solid built, and when you have a clamshell, you do need to be careful about grabbing onto something that's uneven and squeezing too hard, because you can bend them. I bent this one a little bit trying to pick up some brush that there's a stump in there I wasn't aware of, but it's not like it's hurt. It's just, you know, one of those things. The only complaint I have about this is I lent it to my dad. No, that's not the complaint. And a few of these cotter pins just slipped out, and I have no idea why. So if any of you guys know of a better way to retain these hydraulic pins, let me know, because I'm all ears. It's a skid steer bucket. I got a 60-inch bush hog, 72-inch bush hog, 6-foot bush hog. I run on this. This is an old house bush hog I bought when I had that Massey Ferguson down here. I paid like $400 for it. It's nothing to write home about, but it does cut really well. And if you keep the blade sharp, it leaves a pretty nice product. It's pretty beat up, but again, that's why I got it for such a good deal. I will probably upgrade this in the future, or potentially even go to like a flail mower. I'm not really sure, but for now it works really well. And got a 6-foot box blade and a set of pallet forks, which are money. I love my pallet forks. Then I got the bucket that came standard on the tractor. Well, that's pretty much it for the review. I'm really impressed with it. If you're in the market for a new tractor, or another tractor, or just going to be buying a tractor anytime in the near future, I'd look real heavy at Kioti. They're a great value proposition. So they're manufactured by a parent company called Daedong, which is not only funny, but is also Korean. And they make, pretty much from what I understand, all of the engine components, and they put together a nice tractor. Are there nicer tractors out there? Maybe. But did the John Deere rep that sold me my 333G drive this around for a minute and say, it's a pretty nice tractor? That's true. He did do that. Shout out Tom. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. And again, thanks for watching. This is, I'm probably going to do a more in-depth review once I've really, probably the first time something breaks, which actually, that's one thing I should probably include. I did break one thing. I bent the bucket level indicator, which I never really used, so I took it off. But other than that, it's been really business as usual, and I'm really happy with it. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned, plenty more coming, and keep following that land, folks.